Hello, everyone. We are back. And again, at least so far, the three musketeers. So we are here today in this spiritual light again with a special topic today obsession. And I'm here with our friends, Charles and Silva. Hi, Silvia. How are you doing?
Oh, hello. Good evening, everyone. I'm well, thank you. I wasn't too good last week, but I'm fine today. Thank you very much. And once again, it's wonderful to be together again to talk about Spiritism, my favorite topic. And, welcome to everyone. And let's hope that today we'll be able to talk about things that people are interested in knowing more about and be of some help for them. So, boa noite a todos, ou boa tarde. Mais uma vez estamos aqui e bem-vindo a todos para falar de um assunto extremamente importante, que é a obsessão, e que possamos ajudar alguém que está precisando, ou esclarecer alguma dúvida, quem quer que esteja. E, então, bem-vindos e uma boa reunião para todos nós. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Silvia. Thank you. So now we are going to France. Hi, Charles. How are you doing?
Hola, Rodrigo. Hello, Silvia. Hello, good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Good evening. Very happy to be here again. And as Silvia just told, this topic is quite important. Obsession. It's maybe a little bit complex. We will try to make it simple, accessible for all of you who are listening us. But yet bring you the necessary information that you can detect or avoid or prevent or overcome such type of situation which from time to time are presenting themselves. So good to know. Ok, bonjour, bonsoir à tous. Très heureux d'être ici parmi vous tous pour parler ce soir du thème de l'obsession.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you. So, bienvenidos a todos. Aquí hablo para los hispanohablantes. Bienvenidos seáis en esta live una vez más. Hoy hablaremos del tema de obsesión. Es un tema un poco denso, pero importante. Y como dijo Charles, intentaremos hacerlo lo más sencillo y más objetivo posible, de una manera productiva y para que sepamos cómo, decir así, evitar, ¿no?, que esto nos aflija de alguna forma. Welcome, everyone. So I am Rodrigo Ortega. So hopefully I'll live up to the responsibility of replacing Stevan, who could not be here today with us. So I'll do my best once again. And we'll talk today about obsession, as we have anticipated, and we can fulfill this commitment or this task simply and objectively for us all to understand and use the tools we'll be talking today in our daily lives. All right. So I have a video to present. I'll just share my screen. Just 1 second. Share screen. Okay. So I have here. Oh, just 1 second, please. All right.
Are you afraid of spirits? If so, don't look at the mirror.
The audio is a little bit...
People, are you afraid of spirits? Well, if you're not afraid of them, you should not be afraid of spirits either. Why? Because these people are spirits. You are a spirit. I'm a spirit. The only difference between what we call spirits and ourselves is that we are incarnated. We have a body. And spirits do not have a body. Momentaneously, they don't have a body. What Spiritism says is that we are spirits that sometimes come to Earth, incarnate here, for a specific reason. Why do we come? Why do we reincarnate? We reincarnate to learn things. In a school, you learn a lesson and then you take a test. In life, you have a test, you learn a lesson. Cool, isn't it? That's exactly why we incarnate. We incarnate to have lessons and lessons and lessons. We have plenty of tests. We have to overcome the problems. We have to overcome all the tests. Then we become better people, wiser people. That's why we incarnate. And spirits are no different than that. They are just not here as human beings, as better saying, as human bodies. Should I not be afraid of even evil spirits? Evil spirits dedicated to evil forever, they don't exist either. What exists are underdeveloped people. They become underdeveloped spirits after they die. See and face spirits as people that they are, people that we are. We are all spirits. Some are incarnated, some are not. As incarnated people, we have good people and bad people, same as with spirits. So if you want to be safe, if you want to live well with these spirits, just take care of your own life. Try to become a better person. Study, try to be friendly, kind, try to help people around you, try to have a better relationship with your family, at your work. If you do so, do not worry. You're going to be protected by the good spirits who are willing to help you, to help humanity to become a better place to live.
Good. So let me just come back here. All right. After this nice and interesting video, so let's talk about obsession. So first of all, I'd like just to say hello to Tatiana from Spain. Hi, Tatiana. Hi, Michael Davis. So thank you for being here with us. So obsession. So first of all, I'll go to the Spirits book. All right. In the question 457, Kardec asked to the spirits, do spirits have any influence on our thoughts and actions? And the spirits respond, their influence on you in this regard is greater than you suppose, for very frequently it is they who guide you. So this is an interesting answer because we are surrounded by spirits. That's what we learn in Spiritism, and they influence us. That's what the spirits they're teaching us. So and then what does this influence can cause to us? One of the things. So there are several things. Also good influence, because if we are close to good spirits by our actions, by our thoughts, by our feelings, by what we do, if we are charitable, if we are kind, as we saw in the video, so we attract the protection of the good spirits and they influence us positively. Never taking our ownership on our free will. That's what we know. Good spirits, they will never act or interact or influence us and taking from us the chance to exercise our free will, because that's what we are here to learn, to exercise our free will. So that's the first thing. So if we go to the mediums book, also Kardec says, and also I think the spirits they answer to Kardec that the best way to avoid evil spirits is to attract the good spirits. How do we do that? So let's give the chance for Charles to talk about that later. Okay. So so that's the answer from the spirits. So we suffer influence from the spirits. Okay. And then there is the obsession. What do Kardec say? What does Kardec say about obsession? Obsession is the persistent action that an evil spirit exerts upon an individual. It presents very distinct characteristics from a simple moral influence without any perceivable outward signs to the complete disturbance of the organism and mental faculties. We find this answer or this observation from Kardec in the Gospel according to the Spiritism in the chapter 28, item 81. Okay, so let's go step by step on that answer because this is very complete. So when we talk, Kardec talks here about obsession. He's talking about spiritual obsession, because there is also the obsession, the word which means like being obsessed or being focused or extremely focused or like thinking about something too many times. And this is not a spiritual influence, it's the person itself who creates this obsession. We are not talking here about this type of obsession. We are talking here about the spiritual obsession. And Kardec mentioned it clearly that it's an action, it's a persistent action that an evil spirit exerts upon an individual. So it's an influence that one spirit exerts upon another spirit. This can be between uh, a not incarnated spirit influencing an incarnated one. It can be an incarnated spirit exerting upon influence upon the not incarnated spirit. It also can be an influence caused by an incarnated spirit to another incarnated spirit. Because we need to remember that obsession is a moral phenomenon which has to do with our, it's a psychic let's say phenomenon on the moral aspect. So everybody, we need to remember that as we saw in the first video, that we are spirits, but we are incarnated, but we are not, we keep on being spirits. Having said that, we can influence other spirits, even incarnated, with our thoughts. So this is a connection we all have. So that's the point. So as a moral phenomenon, it's triggered by who we are or who we were, or both. Let me explain. Who we are. So depending on how we conduct our life, our thoughts, our feelings, our actions. So we attract the spiritual, how can I say, companies which are familiar with us. So there's a saying that which says that tell me who you are with, then I tell you who you are. So that we used to say that in Brazil, but I don't know if that expression is the same in English. But in Spiritism, we say, tell me who you are, and I will tell you which company you'll be having, spiritually speaking. So having said that, if we don't educate our thoughts or our feelings according to God's laws, so if we are not practicing good, we attract the spirits who are, let's say, evil. Evil. Let's talk about that first. Kardec mentions evil spirits, but we know that in Spiritism that evil because of the condition the spirit is in that moment. So it's not forever. No, the spirits are not evil forever. Evil is the ignorance of the good. It's a state. Okay, so when we talk about these evil spirits, they are still not, how can I say, knowledgeable about how to do good. So just 1 second, because we need to welcome Rafael Caldas, who has just joined us. Hi, Rafael. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm so sorry. I got my times completely messed up.
No
I was
problem.
actually here studying, preparing.
Okay. You have credits, no worry.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here.
Nice to have you with us, Rafael. So I was saying that evil spirits are just the spirits who are not knowledgeable about how to be good. So that's the first point. So, and if we, depending on who we are, we attract the evil spirits with us. But also, there's another phenomenon which has to do with who we were. So in our past lives, we might not have done, let's say, good things to other spirits. We might have had some conflicts. We might have caused harm to other spirits, to other people, people who were close to us or who were our enemies in the past. And when we are not incarnate, so when we go to the spiritual life, so sometimes one spirit comes to its reincarnation first. The other spirit keeps the enemy, let's say this way. I don't like this word, but let's say that our enemies stay in the spiritual world, and they can cause influence to us for vengeance, for whatever. And this mechanism is it helps us somehow to evolve. But that's why it's allowed. So when we talk about that obsession is a moral phenomenon, it's because it has to do with our relationship. That's why whatever action we take, which are exterior, which are material related, it's not enough for solving this kind of problem because it's not a moral action. So how we solve this moral phenomenon of obsession, we will talk about that later, okay? But that's, so let's say there are people who say, oh, if I do, I don't know, if I do some rituals, if I do some, I use some material, like in Brazil, we use a lot thick salt. Let's say if I throw thick salt on me, I will expel the bad spirits. It doesn't work because it's not material phenomenon, it's a moral phenomenon. Okay? So that's the same. So we need to solve it in the way the problem was caused. So changing ourselves or solving our past problems. That's why it's allowed. Okay? So which are the we talked about the agents. So we talked about it could be incarnated, not incarnated, spirits. So it can be spirit to spirit, whatever it's incarnated or not. So Kardec brought us three types of obsession. Okay, one is ordinary. The ordinary is basically an influence that the spirit can cause to us. So it can interfere somehow in our lives, disturb somehow. We can have some bad feelings, some let's say some physical how can I say effects out of that, but it's simple, it's ordinary. So normally the people we note that, oh, it's not something I would do, or it's not something that I would think. So normally we can recognize. That's what Kardec says. Okay, then there is the second type of obsession, which is the fascination. In the fascination type of obsession, we are still owner of ourselves, of our free will or willpower, but the spirits, they can cause how can I say, they can influence on our perception about things, about the facts. So it can influence our capacity to judge things around us. This is fascination. And then there's the third type of obsession that Kardec brings us, which is the subjugation. So this type of obsession, it acts on our willpower. So we don't have, we cannot exercise our willpower any longer, our free will. So it's dominated. So sometimes this obsession can be just on the moral aspects, our decisions, our thoughts, or whatever. But it can also influence, or can also have some effects on our body, our physical aspect, like diseases, because this type of influence can also be accompanied with or followed by some bad fluids, which can harm ourselves, physically speaking. So in the Medium's book, Kardec mentions, like, I think, a city where many people in that city was influenced, or there was a guy who was always kneeling on the ground and asked the first woman in front of him to marry him. So this, and he said, no, I don't want to do that, but I cannot just simply control what I'm doing. So this is a kind of subjugation. Okay, so these are the three types of obsession that Kardec mentioned to us. But of course, it's like mainly there are many other aspects, or how can I say, things that it can happen. So today we have more, let's say, through the André Luiz and other authors, more better definitions or more detailed definitions about the things that can happen between when we have an obsession. And what's the duration? How long does it last? It can be temporary or it can be persistent. So it will depend when it's solved. So it depends on us, and it will depend on how we'll talk later, because we'll be having here answers coming from this team talking about how long it can last and what we can do to avoid the obsession. All right. So, and this is a kind of a good thing, a good way to understand the God's law or the divine justice. Why? Because it gives us the opportunity to solve our debts, our faults with others who we caused harm in the past. And this, the incarnation process or the reincarnation process, allow this to happen. So we can be, when we suffer an obsession, and this spirit who are obsessing us is like an enemy from the past. It happens for us to be able to solve this let's say bad relation we have had in the past, and to build up a new future. So, and this is a good example and proof that the divine justice is perfect. It gives us all the possibilities we could have to solve our problems, to solve our debts from the past, and to restart. Okay? That's why Jesus said that we should solve our problems as soon as possible. Why we are here, isn't it? Because he knew that these unsolved problems in our lives could be lasting for many years, hundred, thousands of years, sometimes in the spiritual world. So it's better for us to solve the problems we have with our enemies, with people we don't like. So with our families, especially now in Brazil, let's reconcile before Christmas, because so all this political issue. So let's solve our problems. Let's not allow our families to be destroyed because of that. So it's not worth it. It's not worth it. So, and if we don't do that, so most probably we'll be gaining some obsessors in the future. So don't do that. Just clean it up now. Okay. So I'm joking, but it's serious. All right. So having said that, I think I have talked a lot already. So I'll move my question now to our friend Silvia. Silvia, can a person perceive if they are being obsessed? What kind of help can one ask for it one feels under negative influence? And can psychiatric treatment, including the taking of medicine, help in the case of an obsessed person? So, a lot of questions. So, I'll leave the ball with you now.
It's quite a long question. There are three of them. I'll try to be as brief as possible. And well, a person may feel a certain difference. I think the first thing that someone who's beginning to be under a negative influence feels, I think the first thing is a change of mood. The person is happy, and 2 minutes later they are happy. And this is not a question, it's just, as you were explaining before, it's spiritual influence, but it can, as if it deepens and gets worse, then, the person is getting to an obsessive process. So also, other thing, the person is very irritated all the time, gets very angry for no reason at all. And on the other hand, as well, the person may feel, start having very negative thoughts, self-destructive thoughts, feels like crying, or the person cries a lot without any reason, anything, just, the person just bursts into tears. but also it not only this, but also affects physically. It starts as it thinks deeper. A person starts feeling problem as well, tiredness, listlessness, total lack of disinterest or anything. They may have difficulty to fall asleep and to sleep, and if they do, they have very bad dreams. Or on the other hand, the person just sleeps and sleeps and sleeps, it just goes into that process. And also, as it sort of deepens, as I said, it goes into physically as well. The person starts feeling, achy, can't walk, all sorts of things. So if something like this is happening, you need to pay attention, because especially if, this change of moods and this kind of feelings of unhappiness, and if nothing really has happened, I mean, of course, if a person has gone through a bereavement or a break in their relationship, or something has happened that made them, go through a difficult period, we need to, there is always, first of all, we need to check all these things. If a person is under bereavement, or there was something that happened that made them upset or going through a very difficult time, they're not quite sure what to do. They know a reason why that's may be happening, and what they feel. It may be a reaction to an experience they have just gone through. But if they don't have anything like that, so I think the first thing is maybe is to talk to someone and try to, a friend, a member of the family, or maybe go to a therapist. And if it doesn't change, then I think they should look for some help. And it's very important to analyze, because there is one point as well. Some of these feelings is when the person may be developing mediumship, but I think that's going to be talked about later on. I think so. In the sense, if a person is going through this experience that they never had before, there is no apparent reason for this to be going to be happening. So go and look for help. Now, and that's the thing, because, in many places, a person will go to a therapist, we go to a psychiatrist, especially if the thoughts become very destructive, and the person can even attempt against their own lives or become very violent. Then they go to a treatment. And normally, unfortunately, in psychiatry, in therapy, we is still not very far ahead of this. A person may be sent to a hospital because they will be diagnosed as a schizophrenic, or, polar, all sorts of things, which can happen. A person may be going through a real problem, a psychiatric problem. Not everything is bad. That's why it's important to search, to look for, and go for medical treatment, because those things will be defined. And one of the things would be to look for spiritual help. And that sometimes is what's difficult in some places, in some parts of the world, where it's not easily accessible. I mean, we talk about some place like Brazil or other places that you can also have the medical treatment for the person, because as it deepens, obsession can really cause very, very deep physical problems. The person may lose their physical functions, all sorts of things. So they will need a physical medical treatment, but would be ideal if they could also have a spiritual help. I mean, we know that in Brazil, there are many hospitals that they deal with this, the physical part, and also with the spiritual. So, prayer helps, and healing. And I think you were saying, when you were qualifying obsession, simple obsession is an influence that we all suffer from time to time, and fascination. And fascination is a bit difficult because the person more or less associate with that. But when it goes into that subjugation, then you need the help of third persons because, as you explained, the person has lost their will, and that's a very difficult thing. So they need the help from third people, from others, because they become unable to help themselves. So I think in many things, how a person can help themselves is if they are not as deep down into the problem, the situation, look for medical assistance, spiritual assistance. I mean, go to the church if you have to, some places they will pray for you, and there will, many churches pray for people, and all of this will help them, plus the treatment. And also even taking medicine, psychiatrists will give you, which is important because we balance the chemistry of the brain and the chemistry of the body, and will help the person physically become more stable, so it's easier for them to deal with the spiritual problem if they are really going through the problem of obsession, being under a very negative influence. So this, everything happens. But I think when if you need, the family needs to help as well, and prayer helps, and maybe healing, or when the person starts getting better, do some physical exercise is very good because you get all these in there and endorphins into the brain, which change their moods, helps them. Do something, gardening, do something with your hand, painting, anything that helps, doing physical things with you, especially working with your hands, pottery, or whatever the person feels like doing. It is very helpful in the treatment as well, in the recovery rather. As for the time of how long it takes, I think it depends on each case, how much the person is being helped, how much they're doing to help themselves. That is very difficult to say, oh, this will last for a month, 3 months, a day. It's not possible, I think. It will depend on the case, how deep the person is into, and how much they can help themselves and can find help. So prayer is very, very, very important. A change of lifestyle as well, because some kind of behaviors that we may have may bring upon, we gather spirits with us from kind of places we go to. Because I think you mentioned very quickly, I'll mention very quickly anyway, I think you said that, because there's a type of obsession that comes from something we've done in the past. And then, we have all the enemies, but we can pray for them as well. But there is other kind of spiritual influence that we under us, we all have. And you mentioned it as well in your first talk. So if a person goes to bars, goes to the pub, they like drinking a lot, have this kind of easier sort of fun life, it's a point to change. Stop going to certain places, have a more healthy life, maybe even some company, some people, some friends that you have, that take you to fun places, away from them, and yourself like so healing or doing something positive. One thing that's very important as well in the treatment of any disease really is to be more serving others as well, being more attentive to other people's needs. I think it helps you to come out of yourself. If you see that there is someone that needs your help and you go reach out to them. This is when we are in a situation that we can actually help ourselves. But when the person is very deep into that, is much more difficult. So if you can't go to a spiritist center or you don't know of any place you can go, go to your church. There is many places, as I said, they pray, and so all that helps. So I think I think I'll close here because other people will say as well. So maybe clear off and fill in the gaps that I left open.
You're on mute, Rodrigo.
Thank you so much. So sometimes people, the mediums, they are not understood, or the people who are obsessed, they are not understood, especially mediums, and they are taken to psychiatric treatments, and they take medicines and some. So is it something that could, let's say, could cause some harm to the people, like taking these medicines, when there's not psychiatric problem, it's really something related to mediumship or to obsession?
Are you asking me? Well, yes,
Yeah.
I mean, it is. But I think one of the, give an example. I knew someone who was under very heavy influence, spiritual influence, and was something to do with her past and everything. But they had been so badly affected physically that he needed to take the medicine from the doctors because he needed to balance his physical body. Had been so depleted of so many things because of the influence that was causing. And once his physical body was okay, was balanced, then was easy to treat the spiritual side. And I think that's what a lot of hospitals in Brazil do. They have all the treatments, the psychiatric treatments that are necessary. And they also have the spiritual. They have they have mediumship, anti-obsession groups. They have healing. They have prayers and all sorts of things. So this is very necessary. I mean, that's, when I said in the beginning, we need to separate, but I think someone else is going to talk about that, about being, checking if it's mediumship that's flourishing, that you're beginning to develop, or if it's a case of, obsession. But I think Rafael or Charles will deal with that question. I don't want to go into it too much.
Okay. Thank you, Silvia. Thank you so much.
But psychiatry does help. It's necessary in certain cases. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much. So yes, I think, Charles, I'll put you in, in a little bit of trouble, because I think Silvia answered the question you would be asking. So I'll do another question to you. I know you're not prepared, but I'll do that. So I would ask you what can a person suffering an obsession do to help himself itself? But Silvia has already answered that. I'll do another question. So the type of, I think the two types of obsessions which are very, how can I say, harmful to us, it's like the fascination and the subjugation. I think subjugation is the worst, because it prevents us from exercising our free will, our capacity to judge. Okay, so in that situation, so I think there's not much a person can do to help itself or himself or herself, because the free will is prevented. Let's say this way, it's taken from the person. Is this statement right? Do you think it is like this? And if it is, so how can mediumship help this kind of obsession to be solved?
Yeah, indeed, it's a good question. I would just like maybe as a short introduction, this word obsession is sometimes making the people afraid. But I think we could maybe make a parallel between what we call obsession as in Spiritism, as you told Rodrigo. It can be from non-incarnated spirit to incarnated, incarnated to incarnated, incarnated to non-incarnated, and non-incarnated to non-incarnated. And when we talk, for instance, even the people who do not believe that the spirit exists, how do we call generally the influence between incarnated spirit to another incarnated spirit? It can, when you are young, it's called bullying, or sometimes it's called manipulation, sometimes it's called harassment. You see, all these things somehow are linked to this influence between one spirit to another. And then there are some more soft situations like advertisement. What is an advertisement? It's something influencing you to buy something, even something that you don't need. You see, it's another way of influencing. You have now in the internet, in the social media, you have the influencers, people who are convincing a lot of people about at the end making money with advertisement and whatsoever, or buying books or whatever. So this question of obsession that maybe the work is making us afraid is much more actual than what we think. What is a fake news? It is something to influence you or to induce you to believe something which is not real, isn't it? So what I find amazing in this question is as Kardec used it, let's say, because when it's a non-incarnated spirit to us, of course, we cannot see the non-incarnated spirit. If you have someone in front of you which is bullying or harassing you, you can see it, you see. So the situation is a little bit less difficult. But in case of fake news or social media, again, you do not see who is in front of you. You have an image, you have a mask, you have something, So all what Kardec told is fully applying to a lot of more situations that we are facing today. And the rules he's saying are really indeed extremely valuable. So you asked about the simple obsession. So Silvia told very well. So we have the free will to accept or not what is suggested to us, and we have to use this free will. If we are in doubt, or if we don't feel, if we feel it's not good, a thought which is coming in our head, let's take it out, fight against it. So that's the best way not to start with the obsession. Now, if you are, let's say, in a difficult period, or you maybe are not so careful and so on, and you let these things enter and enter and enter, the more it goes, the more it's difficult to how to say, to prevent or stop it. So it's good to stop it as soon as we can, but then, of course, at a given point in time, it turns into what Kardec called fascination. And fascination, I would say, is something very difficult. Again, we can see it from incarnated to incarnated. There were some elections in US recently, or what happens in Russia or in North Korea or wherever. We see clearly people who are fully fascinated by by the influence they got. And this happens when the person which is influenced is somehow happy with the influence the person is getting. So it's a kind of a vicious circle which is put into place. And these are the situations where it's getting very, very difficult to stop it. If you cannot convince the person that she has really to stop completely this retrofeed of this influence, you cannot do a lot about it. Unfortunately, only the time and God and whatever, and maybe some more difficult trials will help the person to understand that she was badly influenced and to come out of it. And this goes then also this third form, which is subjugation, as you told. There really the person needs, as you told, it's fully true, and Silvia told it also. Without external help, it's very difficult to come out, and external help can be on the physical body to balance the hormonal dosing of the blood and whatever. And so once the obsession has harmed our physical body, it is needed to treat the physical body by psychiatrists, by physicians, by specialists in that area. So this is absolutely unavoidable. But on the other hand, of course, it's not enough, because when it is really an obsession, you need also to, convince the obsessing spirit as much as it is possible, because sometimes it's not possible to convince. In those cases are really very, very, very difficult to convince the spirit that it is absolutely not in his interest to continue like that he is also buying some problems for his own future, And if you convince the spirit to stop obsessing or subjugating, then you win the battle, and the cases are normally with quite a quick remission. So it's fully true what you told. When it reaches that degree, you need external help, and ideally on the body and also on the spiritual side. Mm-hmm. And of course, any obsession, I think I'm not sure Silvia has told about it. If a spirit is coming and influencing you, whether incarnated or non-incarnated, it is because you have somewhere a weak point. You have an open door or an open window through which this obsession is entering. So you need to analyze yourself, yourself, to know where is this weak point and what you can do in order to fight against this weak point, bring the necessary betterment, and close this door or this window which was opened, giving access for the obsession. That's another way we should use at the beginning in order to prevent it. Mm-hmm. I hope I answered your question, but that's it roughly.
Yeah, you answered. Thank you so much, Charles. Thank you so much. So now it's the turn of Raphael. So Raphael, what's the difference between a person whose mediumship is beginning to flourish and an obsession?
There is so much material on this question. We can go so many ways that I really liked when you sent it earlier. But before I start to dive in, I really like what Silvia and Charles said, and different things. I think Silvia was talking about how in many cases we have what we call a simple obsession or a lighter obsession, where you're just under the influence of a spirit maybe for a short period of time, but it doesn't get to the heavy cases where a spirit takes over your thoughts, your will, and so on. And it happens a lot. It's very frequent. And Charles was saying that usually we hear this word and we are afraid of it. And if we are afraid of it and we react, I don't want to know about this. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know anything about mediumship because I don't want to fall into an obsession case. It's the other way around. The more you know, the better equipped you are to identify what's going on, when it's going on, when you're under the influence, identify what are the things you need to do to avoid that, to change that, it's a rescue process, not only of you, right? It's a rescue process of the spirits that are involved in that obsession as well. They always should be seen as our brothers and sisters of the journey. They also need help. So that's something we are so used to antagonizing whoever is obsessing that we forget to think about, oh, wait a minute, but this is actually a brother or a sister that needs help. Because this is the only way we'll be able to I guess, recover them or allow them to recover. But anyways, the difference between a mediumship that is flourishing or an obsession. When I was preparing to answer, I said, no, I need to bring a case. There must be some sort of case I can bring that it's not too long and I can share. And I found a statement of a medium and his experience when he was developing mediumship. And he said, he shared a couple of cases. He said that when he started to develop his mediumship, he didn't know he was going to be a medium. He had never noticed any signals in his life. But then he was told, he was through inspiration and through dreams that was going to happen. He was going to develop as a medium and so on. So he started his preparation. He started to study. And in the beginning, as he started to get used to, I guess, expanding his own domain over his body, so other spirits could use his body as a tool. In the beginning, when he started to get used to this, but didn't know how much to control it, he started to realize that there were a lot of situations that there were everyday situations that started to affect him a lot. So as Silvia was talking, Rodrigo, you were talking about fixing the discussions with the family, right? So he said that he started to notice that depending on some people that he was going to talk in the office with a colleague or a friend at a bar or whatever it is, that depending on the kind of thoughts and ideas and how intense they were towards those ideas and so on, he would start to feel uneased about it, and he sometimes even develop headaches, body pain, and so on. He would carry that with him after the interaction with those specific people. So he started to realize that the spirits that were, in most of the cases, unconsciously following those people around would also see in him the same interest for a subject or something, and would probably attach to him as well. He would feedback from him because they have something in common. And he shared two stories. One of them was he met this friend on the street, and he exchanged a couple of phrases in a short conversation, and then immediately after that, he started to feel so much heavy pain in his head, a lot of headache, almost like migraine, and it just didn't go away after 3 months. After 3 days, not 3 months. And then so he went to look for help, right? He went to the spiritist group, a medium that he knew that was good with healing, that could perceive the presence as well. And together with them, they started to realize that in reality, this was a spirit that was with someone else attached to you, because probably felt that this person, as a medium, that was not as trained, let's say, in how to control the mediumship and the influence that they were receiving, and how much power it was giving to the spirits, ended up being attached to it. So through prayer, through changes in studies and so on, that influence went away. And then he went on to describe a very similar situation. I'm not going to do, but another very similar situation where he could feel that he ended up absorbing something that someone else was carrying. In those cases, it's when we read the literature, we need to understand one thing. Nothing happens without a reason. If something is happening to you as a medium or not, there's something that you must learn from that. If that was allowed to happen, then there's something that needs to be learned. You are being trained as a medium, or you are getting in contact with something to learn how to deal with that. But in any ways, those are things that, if they're allowed to happen, it's because you need to learn from it. Those are the cases when your mediumship is still flourishing and you are a bit more susceptible to that influence. Now, when we talk about an obsession case, a behavior that comes from an ill-intentioned spirit that is targeting a specific person because they want to either get back to that person because of something they did in the past, or get back to somebody else connected to that person, and then they realize that the person is a medium, and then through that mediumship, through the lack of control of their mediumship, they started to influence them. If the medium is not trained enough to identify, to avoid problem situations, thoughts, actions that will lower their guard from a moral perspective, then it gives in to the spirit that is trying to influence them. And in that case, it might, because we have other issues behind that connection, it might take a bit longer to disconnect. As I said, you need to look at that situation with all of the complexity that is behind it, the issues that came from past lives, and so on. So there's is a bit more of a longer term fixing, let's say, that needs to come from the medium and from the spirit on the other side. But I hope I shed some clarity, some light on the matter. But that's what I wanted to share.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Rafael. And you said something that we look at the obsessors as like the evil spirit who is attacking us. But as you said, so in most of the time, so they are the victims of the people who are incarnated. We know that there are no victims because this is a, like say, a cycle where someone is victim one incarnation, someone is the causer, the executor of the bad things in another incarnation. So but at the end, so it's a relationship which needs to be solved.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So that's why sometimes it takes too long. So if you read Dramas da Obsessão de Ivone do Amaral Pereira, so it's there are lots of histories about that. So how complex it is to solve an obsession when it involves something from the past. So I think compassion and and watching our thoughts, watching our feelings, and to follow Jesus' teachings is the way to do that somehow. And also, just to complement one thing that came to my mind now is when you read the Medium's book, Kardec says that at the beginning of the mediumship, so the spirits who are helping us to exercise our mediumship are the inferiors spirits until we get the knowledgeable about that. When we understand how to control it, we turn this faculty, let's say, not something that we want to do, so happening when we want to do so, when we have control over that. Then the good spirits, they say, oh, now they are ready for us to work. But then the thing is that when the medium is not educating the mediumship, so the influence of the evil spirits or the inferior spirits lasts for longer, and that's when it becomes a problem. So that's the thing. So we need to remember, so obsession is an influence, as Kardec says. So, and then we need to work with this influence. And of course, we need to watch our thoughts and our feelings as well. Is that, as Charlie said, about the influence we are suffering for the social network, for the social media, because this is stronger in causing a lot of suicides recently in this aspect. So we need to be very careful about that. And if we are an influencer, let's be careful. Let's do it responsible. Let's be responsible when we do that, because an influence to another person can cause a lot of impact that we don't know, and we need to be very, let's say, responsible when doing that. All right. I think we are right on time. So 1 minute left. I think I would like just to thank everyone who are with us. Silvia, do you want to say something?
No, it's something very, very, very quickly, because it was something that Charles said, that people get afraid. But we don't forget, we incarnate, the people who is still alive in this life, side of life, can obsess the dead as well. And it happens quite a lot. So,
Yes.
it's not only that way, but, and I think another point as well is exactly because they were victims, and we needed to treat them with love, and our change in behavior and our kindness can help them. And it's the only way that we can overcome obsession, is when we feel that the person is a person in need, like us, who needs love, who needs kindness and understanding. That's the only way to actually cure.
Yeah.
Is to, and they can be
Good
quite good
thing.
friends,
Cure.
actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we should not expel the spirits. That's not a solution. We need to solve the
yes.
issue. So sometimes
Exorcism makes it worse.
Much worse. I remember just very quickly, someone called me once and said, Rodrigo, I would like to talk to the priest of your church because I want someone who can expel the spirits who are disturbing me. And then, of course, I went to the thing. And I tried to help her understand that it's not expelling. So it's not some to putting them away, but it's to solve it. But she didn't want to. She wanted them to be away. Nothing we could do because also sometimes we need to understand this, but people are not prepared to do that. And that's why suffering sometimes plays a role, unfortunately. So would like to thank you. Thank you, Raphael. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Silvia. Thanks to all the people who followed us today in this live. See you next Wednesday. And thank you so much and good night.
Thank you. Au revoir.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Good night. God bless. Have a good week. Bye.
Ciao.
Yeah. Bye. Ciao.